Yeah.
And in Nashville, Tennessee, Pulitzer Prize-winning historian Jon Meacham. Okay, so Donald Trump, president-elect. Donald Trump sat down with Leslie Stahl for his first televised interview since last week's election. Here's some of what the president-elect told 60 Minutes, beginning with how he reacted to the magnitude of the moment.
On election night, I heard you went completely silent. Was it a sort of realization of the enormity of this thing for you?
I think so. It's enormous. I've done a lot of big things. I've never done anything like this. It is so big. It is so, it's so enormous. It's so amazing.
Kind of just took your breath away. Couldn't talk.
A little bit. And I think I realized that this is a whole different life for me now.
Do you think that your election is a repudiation of his presidency?
No, I think it's a moment in time where politicians for a long period of time have let people down. They've let them down on the job front. They've even let them down in terms of the war front. You know, we've been fighting this war for 15 years.
This was the message of your campaign.
We've spent $6 trillion in the Middle East. $6 trillion. We could have rebuilt our country twice. And you look at our roads and our bridges and our tunnels and all of and our airports, they're like obsolete. And I think it was just a repudiation of what's been taking place over a longer period of time than that.
Jon Meacham, it's hard for the weight of the office, the weight of the responsibilities not to bear down on anybody. And you saw it there that Donald Trump felt it even election night. As Leslie Stahl reports, he went completely silent.
Yeah, it's the opposite. It's the obverse of what Bob Dole, when he called George McGovern and asked him, when does it stop hurting? And McGovern said, I'll let you know. So I think that all presidents have a moment, president-elects have a moment where they realize it. Usually it's just national security questions. And there's also there's going to be some moment in the spring probably where it even in a tactile sense it becomes clear. That happened with President Kennedy in the Bay of Pigs. So we just hope that we don't have to have a crisis before the enormity becomes clear.
Jon Meacham, you had talked about 8 years ago how you said Barack Obama was conservative with a small c. Conservative, the way William F. Buckley said, looks at the world as it is, not as we want it to be. You look at Donald Trump and you look at infrastructure. He's talking about a big infrastructure plan with Schumer and Pelosi. He's talking about bringing our troops back home and not being, ending the 15 years of war. And then on Obamacare, again, these are three things Republicans are going to hate, which I've been telling people for a very long time. That he's just not going to be ideological. The third thing is Obamacare. Not only is he saying he's going to keep pre-existing and also that parents, children can stay on it, but he's also saying he's not going to repeal it until there is a plan to replace it because he doesn't want anybody to be off of health care coverage for a day. That suggests, at least in that case, again, somebody that wants, that, like you said, is conservative with a small c.
Yeah, the great question, which we also saw in the campaign, not day to day, but half hour to half hour, is going to be the tension between his showmanship and stability, right? How radical is he? How much does his rhetoric actually track with what he wants to do in terms of reality? Does he even know is a good question. Sometimes you get the impression, someone pointed this out during the campaign, when he would be reading a speech on the teleprompter and he would stop and say, so true, as if he just read it for the first time. I have a feeling that
he doesn't really like the teleprompter,
Yeah, well, and last night, last night he says, and this goes to your Burkean question, he said, well, marriage equality has been ruled on, that's settled. But Roe v. Wade should be overturned. So where's the consistency
actually, but if you'll notice, and I was speaking of the same thing you did, marriage equality is settled. Leave it alone. Then she asked about Roe v. Wade. And will you overturn Roe v. Wade? He would not say it. Will you try to overturn? He would not say, I don't believe.
Well,
I will overturn Roe v. Wade. He said, I'll appoint pro-life judges. Right. Which I know for activists, that's nuanced. But in Jon Meacham, we saw it start obviously down in Washington with Barack Obama and the president. It seems that everybody in Washington, it seems that everybody is doing what they should responsibly do.
Oh, the power of the ritual of the democratic process is phenomenal, isn't it? And I think one of the most revealing things that was said all weekend, to my mind, was what Trump said on 60 Minutes, which was, because they don't know me. And, you know, that's a reminder of the enormous personality component of this entire movement, of this entire election. And he now has an obligation to, you know, he should have said, stop it. You know, he shouldn't have said that on whatever day they taped it and then waited till it aired. You know, you've got to, you know, to whom much is given, much is expected. He's now been given the ultimate power in the world. And I think that there are a number of concerns. I wanted to ask you what you would say to people who are so concerned about Bannon and the alt-right influence. I mean, what's your message to them?
Actually, I was going to ask you, and we can have the conversation between us about the different roles. Putting Reince Priebus as chief of staff sends, I think, a reassuring message to Washington. And this position, counselor to the president or advisor to the president, seems to be a new one. And it's just like Barack Obama wanted to have Valerie Jarrett next to him, and just like George W. Bush wanted to have Karen Hughes next to him, the person that wins obviously wants the person that was closest to them through the campaign with them. I think it's up to Donald Trump and Steve Bannon to reassure people in the coming days. It's one of the great ironies, John, and you know, there are always these great ironies in politics. You know, Donald Trump, we heard throughout the campaign that this is a guy that was going to shower nuclear weapons down from above if given the opportunity. Actually, the biggest problem Republicans are going to have with him is he is going to be an isolationist and do just the opposite. With Steve Bannon, the great irony is, from everybody that I've talked to inside the campaign, and I know the campaign pretty well and certainly have over the past month, Bannon is actually the one who has preached restraint to Trump over and over and over again over the past month. Stay on message, talk policy, don't follow the media down rabbit trails. It's another great irony that the one guy that could keep him focused and in the center during the campaign now has to explain to others that he's not going to be this volatile presence in the campaign. I think, you know, as my first managing partner of the first law firm I worked in always said, I said, I want to do this, I want to do that. He always like, the proof's in the pudding. Proof's going to be in the pudding. We know what's happened in the past. What's going to happen moving forward? What's going to happen with Steve Bannon? What's going to happen with Donald Trump? I do know this, again, from people that are talking through all of these different names, that Steve Bannon is actually one that I've heard thinks it's important to have diverse names, diverse voices. But again, the proof's in the pudding. We'll see.
But I would just say one thing, and Harold mentioned it, that the idea that these guys are going to be co-equals and he's going to be chief strategist. I have never seen that.
They're not going to be co-equals. They're two different things.
Okay, but that's exactly.
But that's what was said.
The point.
I know that's what was said, and that was cute.
Fine, but
no, that was really cute. But
all I want to say is that the point I'm making is the diverse views. I get the idea of the diverse views.
Let me ask you this. But let's talk management first.
Yes.
You know management. You tell me who had more power, Karen Hughes, talking to the president, being with the president every day, or Andy Card?
Okay, I know where you're going. And Valerie Jarrett versus whoever happened.
Valerie Jarrett versus the 12 chief of staffs that got fired.
But I will say that White House I had a little experience with, and that did not function perfectly because of that kind of a situation.
Right.
And you're going to take this where you have people with two different worldviews, and you're going to say you're both sort of my senior advisors. It's going to be very interesting, to say the least, to watch how they sort that out.
Well, somebody, if all he had was Reince Priebus around him, then he would already be a sellout. to Washington.
I
If
understand.
all he had was Steve Bannon around him, then he would be a sellout to either the alt-right or this populism that so many people find dangerous. Donald Trump, the manager, Jon Meacham, likes different people around him fighting it out and coming to him and saying, what's your solution?
Yeah, just real quick. I mean, I've resisted all the Reagan analogies, but here's a question: how long do you think it will take for there to be a cry of "Let Trump be Trump"? Because Priebus may be playing some kind of Jim Baker role in trying to check the impulses of Trump. I mean, that's going to be a drama we're going to be seeing. I think.
I actually don't know, John. I don't know that anybody will ever say that. We'll see. I don't know that Priebus will ever have the power of James Baker, but could be.